Welcome again to Lakeshore Focus, a weekly show highlighting the key issues, important events, and interesting people in our region. I'm Keith Kirkpatrick. With the arrival of autumn comes thoughts of ghosts, ghouls, and hocus pocus. We have a special guest with us today to talk about all things scary in our region. Let's welcome Mike McDowell, the president and CEO of Indiana Ghost Trackers.
Thank you, Keith. Thanks for having me out.
Was that scary enough, do you think?
Could have been a little scarier, but I thought you did a pretty good job with it.
Well, I'm trying to work at it. I haven't done my Bela Lugosi thing for a very long time.
Well, there you go. You're getting some practice in, right?
So, yes. And, you know, you've got a really interesting background. And it's kind of like spooky here, isn't it? Don't you think?
It is.
A little
bit?
It's
a very, very spooky set.
Or we're like really smoking.
One or the other, yes.
I'm not sure which. So, this is Halloween, and everybody likes to kind of talk about the scary stuff. Why do people like scary stuff so much anyway?
I think it's the element of the unknown that sort of fear, brings that fear into people where they don't know what it is, so that makes them a little bit more afraid. And I think the understanding of it makes people a little bit less afraid of what it is perhaps. But I think it's just that element of the unknown and the potential that something could go awry or something might not work out in the best possible way.
But don't some people just like to be scared?
Absolutely. I think there.
Why do people want to just be scared till they scream and run?
I think it's that adrenaline rush, I believe, too. I think people get a little bit of an adrenaline burst, and that always feels good.
So I always heard that that's kind of our primal nature, to want to be pumped up because we were kind of born to like escape the wild animals or something.
Right, absolutely. I do agree with that.
Or the killer cannibals that were coming after you, right?
Right.
All those things. So you kind of work, do we really have haunted places around here?
Absolutely. I've seen a number of them, and I think that this area has a vast number of haunted places throughout Northwest Indiana, and I seem to find more and more every year, it seems.
Okay, do you have a favorite?
A favorite haunted place?
Is that a weird question? A favorite haunted place, maybe?
There are a number of great places in the region. I think one of my favorites right here in Northwest Indiana is the old jail in Crown Point, where we conduct midnight tours and we get to stay overnight and do a lot of investigative work there, and I think that's been a very active place for us.
Why is that such a scary place or haunted? Why is that haunted?
It's dark. It's just creepy by nature. I think that there's this element there that you don't know what to expect, and what's there might not be so nice. And on top of that, we have captured a number of spirits or recordings. We have captured a number of pieces of video and that sort of thing there at the jail that I think might lead some people to believe that there is possibly some activity there.
Have you ever really been scared yourself? I mean, really, really scared?
Very rarely. I think the last time that happened to me, it's been over 10 years ago, and that was at an old cemetery down near Evansville, Indiana. And hello, people from Evansville. But some of my old friends down there, we went to this old cemetery about 2 o'clock in the morning. And there was only a group of about 8 of us, and as we got out to this cemetery, we began to feel this foreboding. We began to feel as if there might be something there that wasn't so nice. And as we got out into the cemetery and we began doing some ghost hunting and taking pictures and doing sound recordings, I began to sense that something wasn't right. And I've done something I've never done in all my years.
You screamed.
I've said to the group, we need to leave. Something isn't right here. Of the hundreds of cemeteries I've been to, this was an occasion where I said, we need to go.
So what do you think it was?
Well, as we started to leave the cemetery, somebody took a picture, and as they took a picture, it lit up the cemetery, and all 7 of us saw this ball of light float across the cemetery in front of us. And we literally just all saw this thing at the same time as it floated across the cemetery. And I think at that point, we all had a little bit of a fright. But about half an hour later, we were high-fiving each other at the nearest gas station, because it was one of the most interesting things we've seen.
So what's the realest thing you've ever seen where it's like, wow, just a lot of evidence here that this is haunted?
There's been a lot of cases like that, and it's hard to pinpoint just one. I like to tell the story about where I was in Muncie, Indiana, was ghost hunting about midnight at this old cemetery where there was a white church on a hill, and all around it were all these headstones, just hundreds of headstones. And this church had spotlights kind of shooting out towards the cemetery. And as I'm walking down the side of the hill from the church, I see out of the corner of my eye a woman in a blue ball gown step out from behind a headstone. So I did a double take, and I looked back, and she was gone. And I went back to those headstones, and there was an Elizabeth and a Sarah. And I said, "Is your name Elizabeth?" And I felt this little tug at the back of my elbow. And I said, "Is your name Sarah?" And when I played back my recording, I was recording EVP at this point, electronic voice phenomena. This voice said, "No." So that solidified for me that I had indeed had an experience where I saw this woman step out from behind a headstone.
So have you ever been tricked where there really was a woman in a blue ball gown out there in the cemetery just to torture you or something?
We haven't had that experience yet. It's bound to happen at some point, I guess. But you know, I have gone through cemeteries out in California and found people literally sleeping in tents along the side of the hill in a cemetery where they were, apparently they didn't have anywhere else to stay, so they were camping out in a cemetery. That was a little bit of a shocker for both of us, because the one guy who I was with, Mark, he went running for the car as soon as as soon as he saw somebody out there, you know.
So you thought the ghosts were back or something?
He thought the ghosts were coming for him, sure.
So are cemeteries, you know, they seem to be the most obvious places to be haunted. Are they the most popular places to be haunted?
I think that you can find a number of spirits at cemeteries, but it's just, you know, it's kind of a random sort of thing. I think that you may run into that once in a while there, but there are a lot of other places that seem to be more haunted, like old jails, asylums. Places like that are indeed extremely, you know, seem to be more haunted than others. And we seem to find more evidence at places like that sometimes. But cemeteries occasionally will find some good bit of evidence.
So is it my imagination, or there's something sitting here a few minutes ago?
I felt like something was there, but I couldn't put my finger on it.
I had kind of some vision of like a lot of hair and glasses or something.
And I kept hearing this voice saying, "You rang."
Oh, so like, yeah, like the hair like Cousin Ed or something? Or was that it?
Something like that.
It's kind of weird that it was just here and then gone, but both of us felt that, huh?
Yes.
Is that what it's like?
Not quite like that. Not quite like that, but, you know.
But sometimes similar. So some people just say this stuff is hocus pocus. It's just, you're just making all this up. What do you say to people like that?
I say, you know, everybody is welcome, you know, to believe what they'd like. I'd always been interested in the supernatural, even since I was a kid. I used to read stories about ghosts and monsters and everything growing up as a kid, but I never really thought about ghost hunting until I started getting on the internet in 1996 and found that there were people out there in ghost hunting groups. And I'd gotten my very first ghost picture completely by accident, and this just enamored me to want to find out more about what ghost hunting was all about. And the more I've done this, the more evidence I found over the years. I started as a skeptic with ghost hunting. In 1996, when I began investigating this on my own, I still had to make a decision: is this real, or is this something that, you know, people like to talk about, but it's not indeed true? And it didn't take long for me to find enough things that happened to me where I had to say, yeah, there's definitely something to this.
So it kind of kills my question where I was going to say, if you kind of are a believer, you're going to see it. And if you're not a believer, you're not going to see it. And you're saying that's really not true. You can really be a skeptic, and then all of a sudden, whoa.
I've had a number of skeptics that have come to me over the years and say, you know, I didn't believe for 40 years of my life, and all of a sudden this happened, and it kind of left me wondering. I do think that if you are skeptical, you're less likely to necessarily see it or notice it if something happens. If a door slams in your house, your reaction, if you're a skeptic, you know, is the wind immediately. You don't assume that it could be anything otherwise. but somebody who's a little bit more open-minded may indeed say, what was that? And go investigate it and find out if there was a rational explanation for what just occurred.
Now, have you come into situations where you just came in and it's like, that's the wind,
Oh,
that's
absolutely.
that's a squirrel,
Absolutely.
whatever.
We disprove things all the time, and there are people that bring me photographs, and I have to tell them it's a hair in your picture, or this is just dust or moisture in the picture. I kind of hate to do that because I feel like I'm dashing people's hopes, because there are true, real good ghost photographs out there. There are good videos, but occasionally, people will bring me stuff, and I do have to say, well, this is probably explainable as this.
So are some of the people like, no, it's still a ghost. It's still a ghost.
Yeah, there definitely are still some people that would say this is still a ghost, and I don't care what you have to say about it.
They don't want to give up the ghost, right?
That's right. That's right. They don't want to give up
That's
the
maybe
ghost.
where that phrase came from. So in this situation, when you're talking to these people, do you ever come across a situation where you're like, I just can't explain this at all?
Yeah, and that is the case sometimes, where you just can't explain what's going on, and you just reach that conclusion that there is no explanation for it.
So what are ghosts? Is there a definition of a haunting or why do these things still are around?
Well, everybody's got like a different belief about what they really are, and I think the basic truth to it is that it's a remnant of a person's being, whatever remnant that is, whether it's our intelligence, our energy, our spirit, whatever that is that's still around. It's a remnant of that. Sometimes it's a remnant of a tragic case, but there's a lot of different reasons why we might have these spirit energies still around. It usually relates to unfinished business, though. Somebody who was trying to find somebody else before they died or after they died, or they're reliving some sort of a tragedy that occurred to them, or it's somebody who loves something so much here in life they just can't let go of it, like the case with Diana of the Dunes, who is said to haunt the Lakeshore. She has been seen by a number of people along the Lakeshore. It was the place that she loved the most.
Do they still see her?
Oh yeah. We
Really?
actually had her occur on one of our tours a couple of years back. We had a witness to this that had to be escorted back to the bus because it scared her so bad. The rest of the group was standing looking at me, and I was looking at them as I was telling the story, and off to the side, the woman was standing and actually saw somebody appear behind our group, who then vanished. And one of my assistant
Kind of like
guides,
our guest here today.
right. One of my assistant guides had to walk her to the bus, just so, because she was starting to get a little bit excited at that point.
How do people reconcile this with people of faith? Who say when you die, your soul goes to heaven or
I'm a
other
Christian
place.
myself, so I have my own beliefs about it, and different people look at it different ways. I hate to get too much into religion because everybody's got a little bit different of what they believe with that, but I think it all kind of meshes. I do believe that there is an explanation on how this all comes to be.
So is this stuff like you see in the movies? Is it the same? The
No.
scary movies?
Hollywood has to add a lot of effects to make us want to watch, because there are lapses. We go into a haunted place. It's not as exciting as The Exorcist or some of these movies where people go ghost hunting. In fact, some of the shows, I don't know how much of it is all true, but they're definitely getting some evidence. But, if people aren't going to want to watch if it's not too exciting.
So you're telling me it's a little bit more like Ghostbusters?
Well, no, not quite like that either.
Well, because they kind of took it a little more serious, but light.
Right.
They didn't seem like so spooked
Right.
all the time.
But there are some good ghost programs that relate to this, like Ghost Hunters. I think they do a pretty good job of showing what it's really all about. But you get down to movies, I think that we can look at movies like Ghost as being something that might be the way that it is with paranormal activity sometimes. The Sixth Sense was one of my favorites, where they kind of explored that a little bit with the kid. But if you're looking at like Paranormal Activity, the movie, as being something that really happens, I think you could take elements of that and say perhaps, but it's really unlikely that something to that nature would occur, as well as movies like The Conjuring. The Conjuring, I do believe a number of elements from that movie were real, where they had different things that happened to these people in the house, but obviously certain parts of it were added for Hollywood effect to keep it moving along.
So, this is maybe varies from ghosts, but are you an expert in vampires and werewolves and these kind of things? Zombies?
Maybe in a past life. Maybe in a past life I was Van Helsing, but in this life I haven't explored that too much. But I think it's interesting, the stories, but I don't know too much more about that. I haven't run into any werewolves or vampires myself.
So there are some people who truly believe that stuff, right? I mean, really believe there
Sure.
are real vampires, real werewolves, and even zombies, right? So
That's right.
Do those people talk to you about this stuff?
The question is, do I really want to talk to them about that stuff?
Okay, that's a better question.
I guess that's probably the normal reaction for most people when they are approached by somebody and they want to tell them about a real life vampire story or real life werewolf story. They probably roll their eyes and walk away. But I really haven't had too much as far as that goes, as far as stories.
So if someone comes up and says, I need to tell you, Mike, my neighbor is a vampire. I'm sure. I know they are.
Okay.
What do you say?
So let's get some holy water and go explore that, I guess. But
You're going to step into that one?
I don't know if I really would. That might be not something I don't want to step into. But
now, are there any haunted places? I mean, name a couple haunted places, or can you specifically name them? And do people still live in those places?
Private homes, there are some. I don't want to give away addresses. I mean, there was just the story about the house in Gary that's still pretty fresh, but I don't think that was necessarily ghosts. I think it might have been other things. There's still a lot of public places that are haunted, like the Porter County Old Jail Museum is definitely one of those places that's still very active, where we have activity. And then there's restaurants and bars that'll they'll have something new happen there.
We know the Porter County Museum is actually haunted because we were going to actually have Kevin on the show today, and he disappeared.
And he disappeared. Yeah.
So that proves it, right?
That's right.
It's proof.
The ghost must have got him.
The ghost got him, or he just disappeared. We better go check on him later today. Now, there's other people involved in this group with
That's
you, right?
We have a chapter in Northwest Indiana, but it actually is a group that's statewide. So we all work together with other cities throughout the state. And our Northwest chapter meets once a month, and we have a regular meeting, and we go out ghost hunting. And we are looking for new members. So if there are people out there in the public that would like to get involved with the Indiana Ghost Trackers, they should feel free to get in touch with me and find out more about our group. But we do go out regularly ghost hunting every month. And
do you have a website?
We have a website. It's indianaghosts.org.
Okay.
And they can get in touch with us. My email address is on there. They can drop me an email. But it's great for people that want to find out more about the paranormal, because we do have classes that we teach people. If they're members of our group, they get to learn this stuff for free. But it's a great way to learn about ghosts, not only in your area, but throughout the state. Because if you're a member of our group in one city, you can go to any other city where there's a chapter and go ghost hunting with their chapter as well.
Now, sir, are you ever tempted when you're doing these ghost tours or whatever, or do you just turn around and scream or jump out or anything?
No. Occasionally, if it's somebody I know, a buddy or something, I'll tap them on the back or something, give them a little poke just to make them jump for a second. But I don't do that to the guests on my tours, because I do run the ghost tours throughout the area as well.
So if you walked into a place and there was this kind of smoke coming around, what would you think?
I think that would be pretty cool. I think that having the smoke around adds some element to it.
I thought you might think there must be a fire here.
Or that.
It could be that, right?
Could be that too.
So what are you looking forward to this Halloween?
Well, this Halloween, I am running a lot of various ghost tours. We have a seance on Halloween night that we do every year. And we also are doing cemetery ghost hunts throughout that week beforehand, where people get to go out ghost hunting in some local cemeteries with us. And we have our regular bus tours and haunted pub crawls. Where
So business is good this time of year.
Yeah,
oh, pub crawls, that would be really good. So you get people.
Those are very popular. So yeah, if you're 21 and over and you like to go to some haunted bars and hear some ghost stories at the bar and along the way, it's a really great, tour to take.
So a few beers can really enhance the experience?
The more you drink, the more likely you are to see a ghost.
There you go.
Yes.
I like that advice. Hey, well, listen, thanks for being on the show.
Absolutely.
And I'm glad we got this little ambiance going, and later maybe you can explain what happened here.
Maybe.
Maybe. We'll see.
Right.
Thanks for being here today, Mike.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. On today's show, you learned why people like to be scared and what intrigues them about skirting the abnormal, the edge of fear and suspense. We know that many people love to be frightened. You heard about our primal need to get your adrenaline pumping. It is a test of our fight or flight complex, perhaps even a cardiovascular workout. Sometimes it is just healthy to have a good scream. If you are the type that doesn't like blood-sucking vampires and occasional apparitions stopping in, guys with chainsaws, zombies who want to tear you apart, or aliens bent on the destruction of all humanity, I have a few ideas for you. Realizing that a fright might light up your life, here are my suggestions that avoid the foreboding movie, the spine-tingling show on your television, or visiting the local haunted house. Let your kid drive your brand new car into Chicago during Friday night rush hour. Wait by the phone and let your imagination run wild. Give your spouse the credit card and say, honey, enjoy, the sky's the limit. When the bill comes, see how loudly you scream. Place all of your dark clothing in the washing machine and pour in a gallon of bleach. Open the lid in 1 hour and see if your eyes pop out of your head. How about this one? Visit a construction site where they are erecting a skyscraper. Take the elevator to the top and leisurely walk on the steel girders. Make sure you lean over and look down. Lastly, run naked through your town. I'm not sure who will be most scared, your neighbors looking at you or you when the cops arrive and place you in handcuffs while you stand there in your birthday suit. If none of those spook you, then create your own frightening event and see how that gets your heart pumping. I hope this show brought a little enjoyment and enlightenment into your life. We always appreciate when you watch Lakeshore Focus. Your thoughts and comments are valuable to us. Please send them to our email address or reach us through our website, both of which are listed on your screen. You can view previous Lakeshore Focus shows through the website. Click on the TV tab, scroll down until you find Lakeshore Focus, and select an episode that intrigues you. Join us next week at the same time for another Lakeshore Focus. I'm Keith Kirkpatrick saying, make a positive difference in our world today.